we're back with part 2 of the LS Swap F100 build. I got it moved over to the bigger shop that's got a lift and stuff, make things a lot easier. I may have accidentally installed the flywheel, clutch, and transmission without videoing everything, but I don't think anybody really cares. This is what I'm working on now, is building a cross member for this. Something super basic but strong. That's what I come up with. Plenty thick. Super simple. It sets my transmission angle correct for my pinion angle. Should be making some progress after this. Alright, I just finished up the cross member. It's not the prettiest thing, but it should be super strong and good enough for what I'm trying to do. I need to throw the starter on it, and then I've got a bunch of wiring to do. And then I've got to figure out where I'm going to mount my computer inside. I think I'm going to mount it in the cab. Alright, so now I'm getting into the computer and harness side of things. I think I'm going to mount the computer somewhere in here in the glove box. I mean, the glove box in these trucks are made out of cardboard paper or something, so this one's been gone for years. But there's a ton of space in here, and I'm going to try to put my hole for the harness right beside where that cable's going through the firewall. Try to run my harness through there, because there's not too much room under the dash. That wouldn't look ugly if I tried to put the computer, the hole down there or anything. So that's where I'm at with the computer mounting. And then this is the transmission. I got it bolted up, got my cross member made, and that's where the shifter, that's where the shifter location's about gonna be. So I think it's gonna work out really good. This truck used to have a small block and a T5, and the T5 came out way back here, so it was like hitting the seat when you put it in fourth and just wasn't the most comfortable. So I think this is going to be a lot better. This is the harness. It's just a factory harness cut down into a standalone. My hole's going to come out right there beside that cable to the right. I'm about to drill it in now and then run this harness through here and start plugging things up. Alright, this is where we are. I've got the harness just kind of roughly laid out and plugged in. I got it run through the firewall, the computer's inside. And I had some long tubes off of a Silverado I was going to try to run on here, but they go out too wide and they hit the frame rail. So I've heard that the C10 LS swap headers will fit, so I'll probably have to order some of those. But for now, I've just got the stock manifolds bolted on there, just so I can make sure this thing even runs. I still got to get a belt for it. I'll drop the radiator in here. I just wired up the starter to the factory wire on the truck so that the key will work. And we're going to try that in a minute. I'm just throwing in some spark plugs, and then we'll see if this thing turns over and how it sounds. Got all the plugs in. Let's hit the key and see if this thing turns over. Sweet, it turns over. Sounds like it might not have the most even compression, but cylinders in this motor didn't look ideal, but it'll definitely run for at least an hour. All right, I just got my fuel lines ran. Just go right down there through that little hole along the frame rail to the fuel pump and then back up into the tank. I just threw this on here temporarily so I have a sensor so I can try to get this thing fired up. Next, I just got to try to wire in the fuel pump into the relay. My harness came with a relay, but the hot and the trigger weren't wired in, so I got to wire that next, and then I'll test the fuel pump with the key, and then possibly hear this thing make some noise. It is not going to run good at all because I'm missing a lot of stuff. I want to at least be able to hear it make some noise before I keep going. You know, I have no idea if this thing has oil pressure. I turned it over at the key a bunch and doesn't sound like anything bad's going on, but I have no oil pressure gauge yet, so I'm probably just gonna wing it. I mean, I don't really care. It's probably fine. All right, I got everything connected, roughly wired up. Got the fuel pump relay wired, and we're gonna hit the key and see if we got a fuel pump. Oh yeah. Times out just like factory too. That's gonna be super nice. All right, here goes the first attempt at starting the old truck up. Well, it wants to. All right, I wedged something in the throttle since I don't have a second person to try to work the throttle blade. Weird. All right, so the first time I tried to fire it up, it was just hitting on one cylinder every time, and I was missing a bunch of sensors and stuff, but, you know, I thought it would still run like that, but I was wrong. It was just dumping way too much fuel to run. So I didn't have the mass airflow meter hooked up because this is a 5-pin, and my harness has a 3-pin on it, so this has the intake air temp sensor built into it. So I got this adapter harness here, which got off Amazon. It was like 20 bucks or something, and it allows you to run the 3-pin into the 5-pin mass airflow meter. Also got a coolant temp sensor and a map sensor. I know everything looks terrible right now. I just want to get it running, and then I'll go back and clean everything up later. Probably run the harness under the intake, make it look all good, and clean all this whole engine bay up. I tied this piece of wire onto my throttle body so I can reach through and work the throttle if I got to when I'm trying to start it, because I don't have no throttle cable or nothing yet. I've still got to figure out my plan for that. But now we're gonna go for attempt number 2 at firing it up for the first time. So let's see what happens. That's something. Got our first fire. I'm super hyped on that. Motor sounds pretty good. It's obviously still running like crap. It's got no O2 sensors or anything in it, but I'm happy with that. Let's give it one more. All right, so it sounds like the motor's gonna be pretty healthy, so I'm gonna keep going with everything. I just took my measurement for the drive shaft, so once I get a drive shaft for this thing, I'll just have to figure out what I'm gonna do for a clutch pedal and figure out how to make this thing have a hydraulic clutch. After that, I should be able to test drive it, so hopefully the next video should be test driving this thing, and I'm super excited.